This is, it's shut down,
I just picked that one.
but it's not on.
It is on right now.
Oh, let's, until we're ready, let's. Shut down. Okay, lighting day. Feel free to move around, all you want. Hey. Come up with me. So I've told you that we had an embedded tutor, an expert, someone who's done this. When this, I mean, every element of it over and over and over again. This is Sophie Warren. So
Hi.
if you have questions, you need help, you want to talk about your script or your project or something, Sophie's the person, she's getting paid to help. So don't hesitate to ask. She'll be here at all of our shoots, in every class from here on out. So use her, take advantage of her expertise and knowledge. So put your stuff down if you want. And she has to give us a report on Burning Man later. So.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, today's lighting and the look of film cinematography is really important. It creates moods. Now, how many of you have seen our genre projects from past semesters? Okay, oh wow, it should be every hand. Check out the showcases. Last year we did 9 different genres, and every single one looks very different. And some of it is the actors getting different costumes. Yes, that's part of it. But a Western should have a different feel than a samurai film, which should have different film than a musical or a romance or a comedy or science fiction or anything else. So there are different looks. A lot of what we do to change the look of the film is not only how we shoot it, but how we light it. And so we're going to talk about how we shoot it a little bit today, but more when we have our intensive red camera day, where we talk about lenses and all of that. But let's start off with lighting. The first thing I wanted to go through, I should actually be over here. I'm out of frame. The first thing I want to talk about is the C-stand. This is what we call this device. It is something that is on set and does multiple functions. A lot of it is lighting, but there are other things that help shape the light, or we often balance the camera on the Steadicam with it, or we use it to have the dolly when we want to raise it off the floor, or we use it for like large silks and other things like that. So they're used frequently, and there's a lot of different kinds. So for example, I like this kind for some applications because the long leg, that's the one that's up higher, if you loosen it, can actually slide up. So you can get it close. For example, if I wanted to put it really close to the plot, I can set it up like that, and that's convenient. This one does not do that. This is a different kind, and it allows you to have different size stems. This is the stem. If I loosen this pops out. So I can have a stubby stem when it's half the size, or I could have a long stem, which is usually twice the size. This is the standard. I think it's 5 feet, roughly 5 feet. And if you buy a C-stand, unless you specify, this is what you're going to get. Now all the legs rotate around so that they can lay flat, like this. And then to open them up, you fan them out. I usually start with the bottom until it clicks. And when they click, now they're good. If you don't hear the click, when you move it, sometimes the leg can move and it can fall. So you want to make sure they click into position. This kind can only rotate one way, so you have to be aware of that. So that's the legs. Now, see, this one is out of alignment, that type of thing can happen. So I want to rotate this to the middle and then tighten. The tall leg is really important because it is what you want to point in the direction of. Thanks. Of the weight. So if I'm an arm over, or I have something that's heavy on one side, we want the tall leg on that side. It helps balance it. Also, as soon as you put anything on the C-stand, you have to use sandbags. And by the way, what leg would you imagine if you only had one sandbag to go on it? Where do you think it would go?
The lower leg.
Yeah, it seems to make sense, right? You put it on the lower leg. But look at how much movement there is on the lower leg. If I put it on the higher leg, now all the weight is down on the stand and it can't move. So you always want to put your sandbag on the higher leg. And if you have a second sandbag on the medium leg, if you have a third sandbag, lay it over the top of the first sandbag. This bottom one does you nothing. It doesn't help at all. The other thing too is on set, we stage these so they don't take up a bunch of room. We will put them with the tall leg over so you can line them all up close to one another, and then you just grab it, the one that's farthest away or closest, on this side. But oftentimes we'll have 10 C-stands lined up all ready to go. If I'm skipping things or whatever, let me know. I'm frazzled because I was running around. Okay.
Lighting.
Yeah, I want to finish the C-stand though. So. This is the knuckle, this is the arm. And when we can, for example, mount a light to this. And you always want to remember that the knuckle and the arm should be on the right-hand side. If it's on the right, if there's weight, it actually tightens it. If you were to do this on the opposite side, like this, and then when you do it, it actually loosens. So you want the knuckle, the arm on the other side of the knuckle, so that when you tighten it, it doesn't loosen up and go down. We'll show you that oftentimes we can put 2 or 3 arms together to extend longer distances. It takes a while to do that, so I won't show you now, but I'm sure we'll do it several times this semester. Anything else I'm forgetting? Okay. I'm going to first talk about incandescent lighting that is very common on sets. When I went through the cinematography class, we had to light everything with 2K. Does anyone know what 2K means? What?
2000 kelvin.
No, it's not the color. It's the amount of wattage. So it's standard outlets is 1500. So every single light would trip a standard breaker. So you'd have to have special outlets. We use 1K lights, these RE 1Ks. And these, you should learn with these because you have to do a lot of tricks to get the light you want. And then we're going to talk about other types of light. But this is incandescent. And it 1500 amps to run it. Can you give me, by the way, yeah. Question I'm gonna ask. I also do construction. What do you think I call this on the job site? No, in construction. If I'm framing a house, extension cord, yeah. You cannot call this extension cord on a film set. Sophie just said what we call this. Is anyone hear her? Pay attention. Stinger. Yeah, so these are stingers. This is how we get our power. Okay, so let's go through some things. This is a 1K because it's 1,000 watts. So you should be able to plug this into any outlet. But keep in mind that 1,500, this is 1,000 instead of 1,500. That's for everything that's plugged in. So if you have you ever like in the winter plugged in a space heater and suddenly you trip the breaker? Or a couple people blow drying their hair at the same time and it trips it? That's because there's too many things plugged in. It's pulling too many amps. And so this is 2/3 of all that a 15 amp circuit can handle. Better to plug them into kitchens and bathrooms where they often have a 20 amp circuit. But anyways, incandescent light. I am about to turn this on. Every time you turn a light on and set, you have to yell striking. So striking, don't look at the light. You'll see how bright it is. Striking. So you can see just how light that is, how bright. I'm going to aim it up at the ceiling. By the way, you can focus these lights with this. I can make it more spot, or I can open it up to kind of change the look. But it's very, very bright. And you can't dim this. If I dim this in a traditional way, where I actually get a dimmer, it changes the color of the light. By the way, if you were to dim it, what color do you think it would get? Yeah, more orange. Right now it's 3,200 Kelvin and it's very orange compared to some of the other lights I'm going to show you. And if you dim it, it gets more orange. So you actually change the color, not the intensity. So here are some ways to dim it, because for most applications, that's too bright, right? Imagine an actor having to look into that. Okay, so these are barn doors. These help manipulate the light. Let me show you what your eyes. If I, for example, wanted to have maybe light just on Sophie, I might close up the barn doors so that there's less light on the walls behind her, and I can do that type of thing. I'm shaping the light with the barn doors. So that's kind of their benefit. But if this is still too intense, we can scrim it down. Scrimming is you're cutting the intensity of the light. And these are scrims. They come in different colors, halves and fulls. So red is a full scrim. That's a full stop. So as I drop this in, you see how it actually cuts down the light? You see the difference? There is without a scrim, and then there's one. That's a full stop. Silver is a half scrim, so I'm cutting it down even more. Here's where I need my gloves. So now that's a stop and a half. And if I wanted a quarter scrim, they actually have a finer mesh, and it's actually cut in half. So I can cut it down a little bit more. So that's actually how I cut the intensity, is by blocking part of it, or scrimming hot. Okay, so let's say this is too hot and I want to scrim it even more than I'm able to. You can use C-stands to get external scrims. This is two stops of scrims, and I put it in front. See how it doesn't change the light, it just cuts the intensity? So I can put 3 stops inside the barn doors, and then I can bring other scrims in and cut the intensity more. It doesn't change the look of the light at all. If you were to put it on, we were to put it on Sophie, it looks better because it's not too intense, but it doesn't change the look. What if we wanted to, instead of having this harsh look, what if we wanted it softer? What can we do? Yeah, and how do we diffuse? But yeah, but what?
I only even noticed it's some kind of cover like that.
Yeah, this is called a silk. Essentially, it's a fancy like bed sheet with a frame. But look how much softer. See how hard it is on Sophie? And I put the silk and what it's actually doing is diffusing the light in different directions. So it kind of bends it around. It makes everything look more soft. So we try to diffuse a lot if our goal is to make our subjects look prettier. So we'll use lots of types of diffusion, and I'll show you how we'll do it on some other types of lights. But so this is a silk, and the silk actually shapes the light. The diffusion, I mean the scrim just cuts it down. So I don't know if you can see the difference between them, but the silk and it's already being diffused. I mean scrimmed some. So we want to know that this is a silk, this is a scrim, and there are different kinds. There's even scrims that come in the lights. How else can we shape light? How do you imagine? Light oftentimes it goes through things, right? Imagine light going through this window. We'll probably use that sometime today in one of our examples, but there's things that actually can divide the light. Well, if, for example, I wanted sunlight through a tree, this is, by the way, anyone know what this is called? It's a strange name. Yeah. What?
Cookie for short.
Yeah, it's a cookie. And you can have different shapes. This is as if sun or moonlight is coming. If this were moonlight, we would probably put a blue gel on it. We'll talk about color in a minute. But this is a light coming through a tree. And now if it's windy and the tree's blowing, you can have some movement, which creates some interest. And then they even have kind of combinations that are more subtle. So this is a scrim, but it's also, if you can see, has some differences that give it kind of the look of a cookie. So it's more subtle. So that is, if you can see the movement, it gives it kind of a different look. So shooting the light through things. Also, if I have scrimmed it down and I still think, this is too much light, how else do you think I can soften the image and cut the light? Yeah. That's different, but I'm gonna go get some stuff that in a minute. Let me grab. All right. So I have a few more tools. Okay, suddenly in the script says it was day before and now suddenly it's night. That gives us our moonlight look, right? Just changing the color of the light indicates different time of day. So what is this called? Yeah, it's a gel, and gels come in a huge variety of colors. The ones I use more often are orange and blue because that's changing incandescent and lights and daylight balance lights to make them match. But to get a variety of different looks, we'll often put different kinds of colors on them. Are there any? Actually, I have them right there. Yeah.
There's a box over here.
Yeah, good thing. Remember what these are called? C47, yeah. We do not call them clothespins. I have a good friend who was fired from a shoot because he couldn't remember C47, so he said clothespin. They assumed that he knew nothing about filmmaking, and so they let him go. So you got to learn the terminology. Sometimes I'll have answers why they came up with the term, and sometimes I don't. I've heard about 4 or 5 different stories about that. One of it was a supply list, and it was line or item C, and it was the 47th item, and so it started to be called C47. I'm not sure, but anyways, C47s are what you use to put attach things to the barn doors. So this is a blue gel, and so we are really beginning to change the look of the light. And then the other thing we could do too is, if again, by the way, will you strike the house lights? Yeah. Yeah, the other one too, both of them, yeah. And this might be maybe too intense. So we might do something like, we will bounce the light. No, stay where you are. So we might do something like this where we're bouncing the light at Sophie. And this is probably with the diffusion not as clear to see. But if it's too intense on Sophie this way, we might shoot the light into something, and now that light is nicer. So we often will, again, watch your eyes, swinging the light around. We will often shoot the light backwards and bounce it into the subject, and that's almost as if you're going through a silk. So there are a lot of different ways you can manipulate the light. With your eyes. So you should learn all those 2 terms. Actually, let's go through them real quickly. First of all, what kind of light is this? What? Yeah, 1K. Yeah, and that's kind of, it's an RE1K, and film, cinematographers will know what you're talking about. What are these? Barn doors. What do I use to attach, say, diffusion onto barn doors? C47s, yeah. What do I use to cut the light? Scrims, yes. And there are different kinds of scrims. There are external scrims as well. And what is it? What is this called? The silk. And that helps soften the light. I don't know, I've been talking for a long time. What questions do you have about any of this? Can you restrike the lights? Thanks, Kevin. Yes.
Aren't there new laws about the purchase of incandescent bulbs?
Not for the film industry. However, I have not bought an RE light, a 1K, incandescent light in over a decade. There are much better lights, and we're gonna talk about them. But for a lot of shoots, I'll pull out the REs sometimes when we need some real intensity. And I'll show you another time, an HMI light that's even more intense in just a second. But you gotta learn this, because even with other types of lights, you need to learn how to scrim and balance and all that stuff, and this is a good workhorse. I'll give you some drawbacks. One is it's not dimmable. It also gets incredibly hot. The bulb gets over 1,000 degrees. And one of the bad things about it, when I strike it, the light, it can take up to half an hour to be cool enough to handle. They're also very, very delicate when they're hot. So if you bump one of the lights, the bulbs can blow, and the bulbs are $180 each. So even though if you get a good bulb and you put it in correctly and you use it correctly, it can last for years. You got to be careful with it, and the other thing is, I can't tell you how many times I've touched stuff and for a week I have no sensation in my fingertips. That's why I say you always have to have your gloves, and that's my grip case. I have sets of gloves in there. But anyways, the RE1K lights are something that you'll want to know about. I won't pull the scrim out of this until it cools down. Let me show you another light. And I don't use these very often. I'm not even sure if you've seen the HMIs that I've used, that I have. Let's cool over here. But there are times when they are great because they're really intense. They produce an enormous amount of light. Give that arm. Okay. So built into this light, it's so intense that you can't shine the light directly at your subject, because it's just much too intense. The first time I brought one of these on set on a student project, I had a student and I said, "Do you know how to set up the HMIs?" "Oh yeah, no problem." So he opened it up and struck the light, and there are these covers over the bulbs right here. He didn't open them up, and in less than 10 seconds, it melted the steel. I've heard that it's about 4,000 or 5,000 degrees at the bulb, so that's just how intense they are. You have to open these up, and I'll show you sometime if I remember. I'll bring these, but I have another one of these, and with all the metal that's melted. But anyways, I haven't struck one of these in quite a while, and I really should not aim this at you, because you won't be seeing until sometime next week. But here we go, striking. Very intense. This is not 1,000, it's not 1K. This is 2K. And they also have the REs in 2K, but this is all kind of bounced lights. It's indirect lighting. And okay, close your eyes, dim your eyes, and you can see just how bright it is. So when we are outside and we want to get a shot that is very, we're trying to simulate a lot of light outside in a large area. Sometimes we'll break out the HMI. So I'm gonna have to let this cool too. Okay. I don't know, about 10 years ago, instead of the 1Ks, we switched to Kino flows. When these first came out, I was so excited. Our feature film On the Couch was shot exclusively with KinoFlow lighting. Anyone know what KinoFlows are? They're dimmable fluorescents. So Geronimo got tough with our administration and demanded that they change these lights. Now they are LED lights up above us. But before that, they were fluorescent and they would flicker and it was real ugly lighting. And so always for filmmaking, fluorescent was ugly, grungy. And unless you had seen something like Fight Club where you wanted that kind of grungy look, you really kind of avoided fluorescent lights. But these are dimmable. This is different. And what's kind of cool about this was that the bulbs are all interchangeable and you could change the color. So this is daylight balanced, but I had usually about 6 sets, so I could change to have a variety of colors. So this won't hurt your eyes. Striking. And if you notice, the color is very different than the last two lights. More blue. This is daylight balanced. This light is the same color as the sunlight coming in from a window outside. So it will have the same look, which is important when you want to match lights, because if you have a very orange light and a very blue light, that can be very problematic. But what's kind of cool about this is that I can turn the intensity up, or I can dim it and have it very low, which being able to control the amount of light by turning a knob is very nice. Also, it has built-in silks. So even though it's automatically softer than incandescent because it's kind of wrapped around, silks come with it and you can gaff them over the top and it diffuses it and it makes for a very kind of even light. So on the couch, the film that we shot, Sophie acting in it, and by the way, she cried a lot. In the office scenes, we wanted a lot of even lighting for it. So we had, I think, 5 KinoFlows all just out of frame, and we could then control the lighting. So I haven't used the KinoFlows in a while because we have striking really switched to dimmable LEDs. So I'm going to show you a variety of dimmable LEDs. I'll start with some less expensive ones that you might want to buy for yourself at some point, and then I'll show you more of the industry standard ones that are on set all the time. What's nice about the Kino Flows and the LEDs is that they do not heat up much, so you can handle them while you're manipulating the light. A couple things about these that are nice too is that okay, striking. Okay, first of all, they come with barn doors. So if you need to close things down, again, I'm gonna use Sophie as my model. If I want to, I can shape the light with the barn doors if I want to get, a certain amount of light. I've got that option. It also comes with built-in diffusion, which I can remove, but there's a piece of diffusion that's right here that's being held in, and it, again, softens the light. So I can still put some kind of silk over the top of this, but that's good. But the other thing that's really nice about this is that first, it's dimmable. So I can control the percentage. It tells me that's 10%, and I can go all the way up, that's 100%. So I can control the intensity of the light. Kind of cool. Also, I can control the color, and there are push buttons. So this is daylight, this is incandescent. And then I can do presets in between where it's a kind of a combination. Or I can actually use the knob to infinite variation between 32 and 56. So you can change the color, you can change the intensity. They're light, they're almost no power. I could have 50 of these on one circuit and it's pulling less power than one 1K. So the dimmable LEDs are becoming the norm. So, and I think I have 30 of these now. I have them in different sizes and shapes. This one is kind of cool because you don't always have access to power. When might you not have access to power? Yeah, I can't tell you how many times we've shot on the street in a rural area at night, and you need to have a power source to have light. Well, if you don't have that, and you don't have a generator, or you can't turn on a loud generator to create power, I can pull the AC. I can use a gold mount battery, and it has a gold mount lock right here, so I can lock it in, and I can run on battery. This Anton Bauer battery will last about 6 hours at 100% intensity. So the better part of a day. I actually have a bunch of these so that I can have light remotely. And this is kind of unusual. So this is a nice feature to be able to, go places and quietly have light where you don't have power. So anyways, dimmable fluorescent. This is Dracast. These are quite a bit less than some of the other lights I'm going to show you. I'm actually gonna show you a different kind of Drake cast. Underneath the red base. So you can tell it's not panel lighting. This looks a lot like the Ari, but it is LED, it's dimmable, and you can change the color. So what's kind of cool about these, that these also come with barn doors and they can just slip in. So you can, it comes with diffusion as well. So actually this is backwards. So I can either just slide in the diffusion very easy, or I can slide in the barn doors. The same thing, so I can manipulate the light. The bad thing about this is that you can't do both. It's got slots for one or the other. But if I wanted to use the barn doors, I could then put some diffusion right over it and get both features. But anyways, what's nice about this is you can control the light a bit more. So let me strike it, striking. Again, I can go all 56, the color of the sun, or I can go 32, so I can change the color of the light, but I can also change the intensity. So I can go, that's 10%, or I can go all the way up to 100. And because it's directional, I swear I use these more than the panels now. So when I want to light something, maybe in the background, highlight something, the dimmable fluorescence of variety of types can be very, very helpful. So any questions on all the lights that we're going through? We're going to now go through the ones that we're going to use the most this semester, but any questions on Kino flows, any of the Drake cast lights? Guys, pour it out of your minds. And it's going to change in a minute, where I'm going to force you to handle the lights, and we'll create lighting schemes. Okay, we are now going to do the brand I like is Godox. And Tim and I differ in a lot of ways. This is his light. It's the same type of light. He only has one, and I have, I think, now 6 of the Godox. It's the same thing. They're dimmable fluorescence. No, those. Okay, now this is important because if you're gonna handle lights at all this semester, you gotta get this right. So. Make sure that it's open and seated all the way down, so it's solid. This case, this is just a cover to protect the light when it's in the case. So there's a release switch here, you release that and then turn it counterclockwise to open it. For a lot of times, we'll use the hood. There is almost like a bounce card in here, and almost increases the intensity when you put the cone on. To put it on, you have to line up the holes, twist until it locks. And then there are different power, a variety of things. So this is the controller. We hang it off the C-stand. Then there is from the controller, it clicks on the top of that to the bottom of the light. Like that. This is our power source, and it goes into the converter. The converter, can you put that in for me? Good. Thank you. The converter powers the transformer. So now the power's being converted and then goes to the controller. So close your eyes, I'm going to striking. So this is only 30%.
What happens if you don't go through a converter, you just plug it into the?
I lost one last semester because the light, Kellen, can you strike the house lights? So you can see that's only 30%. I'm just going to show you how intense this can be. There's 60%. There's 100%. So pretty intense light. As intense as the 1K, it's a very different look though, because it's not incandescence, it's not orange, it's not 32K, it's 56K. It's the exact same color as the sun when it comes in. It's also the same color as the sun bouncing off the moon, so it's the same color as moonlight. So you don't have to worry about matching this if sunlight, moonlight are coming into your shot through a window or whatever. So most movie lights are 56K. And then if you want to change the color, then you gel it. So, but this is dimmable. So if, for example, way too intense on Sophie there, before I do anything to shape the light, scrim the light, diffuse the light, I can dim it down. So I can go all the way to 1%. Now that's still, in some ways, a bit too harsh, correct? So at this point, there are other things I can do. So I'm just going to give more light so I can find what I need. But oh, well, quite honestly, Tim's light there has what I'm about to put on, but I'm going to show you how it works. And then I have another option as well. Jason, could you find the nut in this? Someone. I hope it's not lost. Oh, actually, it's on here.
Okay.
So, or Sophie having to stand in the light like that. I'll turn it away from her. Jason, can you help me? Oh. Hold that for a second. So I want to put off, and we're gonna put this much larger one on. That down. This will slide over. It's kind of a two-person job. It's real hard to do by ourselves, but it goes over in the slots. And now we have this larger hood on. And it really hasn't done much to change the look so far. By the way, I have the C-stand wrong. You can tell me what's wrong with it. There's actually two things that I would complain about if I saw this. Yeah,
You don't have the same bag.
absolutely. There's no sandbag. What would keep this from,
And then you have the bigger size.
yeah, so this should be going that direction, but because there's weight pulling this way, the C-stand could fall over very easily. So I'm gonna loosen it up, swing it around so that it is now in the right direction. This is better, but I don't have the sandbag. Okay, good. Now this is very sturdy and I'm not worried about it. I am gonna take it up a little bit. And I'm going to angle it down. Actually, I went up before I put the silk on with you. But Geronimo and I are gonna put a silk on this. So if you look, you're looking at Sophie, you can see how harsh the lighting is, but we're actually going to make Sophie look even prettier than she already is by having nice, pretty, even, diffused lights.
One bring it up.
Yeah. That's good. It's on. So, see the difference? With a little bit of diffusion. So, what's so nice about these is that they can be extremely intense, but they can all go down to 1%. So that's 21%. It can go all the way down to, a very small amount of light. And so the dimmable LEDs, the Godox are the ones we'll be using, have a lot of control, a lot of ability to manipulate the light. And yet, if I wanted, I can make this quite intense. Still soft because it's going through the silk, but it's more intense. So, though that's the kind of the equipment. Am I forgetting anything, Sophie?
I think you pretty much covered it.
Yeah, and I don't want to lecture anymore because I feel like some of you on the verge of falling asleep. And I don't want to have to whip the light around and say, "Hey, wake up!" So, what I would like to do, we have the red set up, so you can start asking Sophie and Jason questions about the red. But we're gonna have a monitor so that you can see what we're doing. I'm gonna stop the Zoom. No one's even on anyways.
I didn't figure out.
How to get what? Oh. Stop recording. Okay, bye everybody at home.